Hello, I'm Mary Delahunty and I'm at Telecom's Research Laboratories to show you how Telecom's research and development is playing a key role in Australian telecommunications as we head into the information age of the 21st century. These laboratories are the largest of their kind in Australia. Their annual operating costs are around $60 million and they employ over 500 people. Their job is to prepare the ground for Telecom Australia to apply new technology to Australian telecommunications. The laboratories carry out a wide range of projects. They range from fundamental research into new materials for lasers and optical fibres, applied research of new engineering principles for the switching and transmission systems that make up the telecom networks, and the prototyping of new services for Telecom's customers. The role of the laboratories is twofold. Firstly, to advise Telecom's planners how and when new technologies can be applied beneficially to develop its services and networks. Secondly, to seek new ways to improve the reliability of existing network technology, to reduce costs or to improve the quality of services to Telecom's customers. While the laboratory's primary purpose is to assist Telecom's operations, they also interact with the research groups of the Australian telecommunications industry and universities. The research also enables Telecom to participate in the development of international technical standards, ensuring that Australia can communicate compatibly with other countries. High-tech research and development cannot be performed for its own sake. Telecom's research and development costs must eventually be borne by Telecom's customers, and this means that Telecom's research and development must be relevant to customer needs. To plan and provide services to its customers, Telecom must forecast the geographic distributions of various customer groups. This enables Telecom to develop its network infrastructure so that it has the capacity to provide the services when and where its customers need them. The Geographic Information Systems research team at the laboratories are tackling these important planning issues. Mike Barrett explains.
One of the most difficult problems facing any business is to be able to predict future trends and not only be ready for the changes, but forecast them as well. And as Telecom prepares to meet the telecommunications needs of the 1990s, three basic questions need to be answered: where customers are located now, where they're likely to be located in the future, and what sort of service and network provisions will have to be made. Up until now, the means of putting that sort of information together has been very labour-intensive and slow. Large amounts of information required for even the most simple problems, and most of it paper-based. But a small team within Telecom is changing all that, combining the skills of geography and advances in computer technology. The team is developing a geographic information system to make the future a little more predictable for Telecom. The value of the computer mapping information is already evident. Maps have been produced to show the spread and density of selected professions at exchange and district level. This information can then be used for strategic purposes. These maps represent the first step for Telecom in one of the most rapidly developing areas of information technology. But the real test for the Geographic Information System is now underway. A pilot study to evaluate GIS and develop guidelines for the introduction of the technology. This communication geography promises strategic marketing advantages in its ability to locate and identify customer trends. It will also mean that Telecom can manage data better and enable the user to ask questions of the data to solve problems and plan for the future. GIS is essentially a tool for putting maps and geographic data into a computer, and this ability will be an important part of Telecom's new customer focus. Readily available, detailed knowledge of the customer and the customer's requirements, both now and in the future, will help take telecommunications in Australia into the 1990s.
One of the practical benefits of the advances in recent years is that information is now easier to transfer and a lot of paperwork has disappeared. Electronic banking is one example. Now another area, pathology, is about to be transformed thanks to the work of a small Telecom team. Malcolm Gray has that story.
The residents of Canberra are about to receive improved pathology care, and Telecom has made a significant, if unexpected, contribution. Not that Telecom is going to go into the healthcare business, but Telecom is certainly cooperating with the medical fraternity. Telecom's human communication experts have been studying the flow of information in the Canberra health sector. Eventually, the work will improve information systems throughout all of Australia's $20 billion a year health industry. But as this Canberra study proceeded, Dr. Peter Lewis-Hughes sought help to improve the pathology service.
To actually improve the report turnaround time, that is the report going out to the doctor and hence the patient, we thought perhaps we could have an electronic means of sending out the first report.
Within 24 hours, the results are available, but then comes the problem. In extreme cases, the handwritten or hand-typed paperwork may take several days to reach the originating doctors.
What we came up with was a solution to the main problem which we found, which was that they were then currently using a combination of government couriers, private couriers, taxi cabs, word of mouth, telephone calls followed up by pieces of paper posted through the mails. And we identified an electronic messaging system which would be both secure, that is, would allow no one but the receiver to see the message, and would be instantly available to the doctor on the ward when he was concerned about his patient, at his convenience.
Having given pathology some unexpected help, the Telecom researchers can now return to their main study. Eventually, all sections of the medical fraternity will receive similar support from Telecom, and the end result should be a better, faster and more efficient healthcare system for the people of Australia.
Well, on to our next story, which is also linked to these laboratories. Artificial intelligence. Alona Komisarov has compiled a report on telecommunication systems that think for themselves.
Only 25 years ago, what's possible today in the world of computers was virtually science fiction. Computer technology has advanced rapidly over the past 2 decades, and today a team of 8 men are working at this Telecom research laboratory in Melbourne on one of the most advanced forms of computer software in the world, in the field of artificial intelligence. Dr. Andrew Jennings and his team are developing programs that enable computers to emulate some of the primitive and rudimentary aspects of human reasoning ability. They've established beyond doubt that we can make intelligent machines. The group has just completed work on Express.
The system says that the pit outside 26 Illawarra may be full of water. Could you check that out for us, please?
OK, mate, I got the message. I should be up there in about 5 minutes.
This AI external plant system was designed to assimilate information about faults and fault histories accumulated in many different forms throughout Telecom, to locate major faults in the cable system or to predict where they will occur. Express will save Telecom millions of dollars a year and will make the job of technicians much easier. Artificial intelligence will be used in the near future to make our business lives and in the medium future our domestic lives easier. It'll help us to accomplish tasks that will save us time, energy and money. But today we can only imagine its scope in the future.
In Australia, businessmen on the move need mobile services. In the late 1970s, these laboratories pioneered the introduction of digital radio technology to enable fully automated services to be provided to the remote parts of Australia. Today, they are extending this technology to provide high-capacity Australia-wide mobile communications, as Mike Barrett and Malcolm Gray demonstrate.
The high Aussie content and the reputation for reliability help make these mobile phones very popular with builders and journalists and self-employed who are absent from their offices for extended periods. Oh, hi, Michael. Malcolm Gray calling.
Hello, Malcolm.
How's your handheld phone?
It's very handy for me, Malcolm, although it's low-powered. The power output is only 0.6 of a watt, whereas the transportable and vehicle-mounted models are 3-watt units. So this sometimes fades, so if I'm standing still I have to move around a little, and if I'm in a building, well, I just move closer to a window. See if that improves it.
Okay. By the way, what are you up to at the moment?
Well, if you must know, I'm actually standing here halfway through one of my reports and you're interrupting it. I'm only kidding. Actually, I'm standing here on the banks of the Yarra. I'm wondering how these mobile phones will develop over the next few years.
Mike, the man to answer that question is Dr. Reg Coots at Telecom's Research Laboratories.
The next developments will happen in the early 1990s when we switch from analogue voice to digital transmission.
A bit like my digital record player.
Well, just as compact discs give a better sound than a record in a groove, so digital will give mobile phones a better quality, greater facilities, and most of all, complete privacy.
Can we expect a wristwatch-sized telephone, a bit like Dick Tracy?
That's out of date. Really, we're looking at a personal communicator, as small as a wristwatch, but offering much greater facilities. Electronic mail, facsimile, all that sort of thing.
Yes, but when?
Oh, before the year 2000. But what it will look like, who knows?
It could be a while in the future, but a small phone, a personal communicator, could give new meaning to the idea of a talking clock.
It will be 7:20 precisely.
Now let's go on a guided tour of the shielded electromagnetic absorber-lined chamber facility here at the research labs. It's quite a mouthful, isn't it? But the Blue Room, as it's known, plays an important part in Telecom's research. The chamber is six-sided, with 5 of these surfaces covered with electromagnetically absorbent material. This leaves the metallic floor to function as a near-perfect wave-reflecting ground plane. The electromagnetic shielding keeps out the externally generated electromagnetic noise, at the same time keeping in the electromagnetic radiation emitted by equipment being tested. And if you didn't get all that, here's the man who can explain it to us. Ian McFarlane, I wonder why we need a special and even a bizarre room like this.
Well, Mary, as you've explained, the room is lined with electromagnetic absorbers. And what this means is that we can put equipment that we wish to test for electromagnetic radiation inside the room, and the radio waves that that equipment emits will be absorbed by the lining of the chamber. There will be no reflections back, and it is just as if we are measuring the equipment in an open paddock, in an open field, but without the attendant problems of blowflies, rain, sunburn, and so on.
What exactly are you testing here?
We are looking at some integrated services digital network experimental terminal equipment to see that it does not emit too much electromagnetic interference, because of course Telecom in the future will be supplying ISDN services to the customer in the customer's premises, and Telecom wishes to make absolutely sure that that equipment will not interfere with the customer's existing services, and that the equipment operated by the customer will not interfere with Telecom's equipment also.
Natural phenomena affect telecommunications in various ways, some beneficial and some not so. Now this cannot be avoided, but Telecom's researchers are seeking to use science and technology to harness and control them. Lightning is an extremely powerful and unpredictable natural phenomenon. Given the right combination of circumstances, a lightning strike can harm both telephone users and telecommunications equipment. Telecom's research aims to develop methods to reduce these risks.
There's an old saying that lightning never strikes twice in the same place. Well, it does, especially here in Telecom's high-voltage impulse laboratory. Engineers here can simulate lightning in a controlled environment to find out what happens when there's a lightning strike in the vicinity of Telecom equipment, or in those rare cases, what happens when people are making a telephone call and there's a lightning strike near the house. The high-voltage group acts as a consultant within Telecom to look at the interaction between the telephone network and its electrical environment. In practical terms, it looks at the potential effects of lightning on the telephone user and on Telecom equipment.
Here we're trying to recreate the most common mechanism involved in customer injury. That's when there's a lightning strike near the house, in trees near the house, or to the local power supply. The lady is making a phone call during a lightning storm, and she unfortunately comes into contact with the refrigerator at the same time as she is on the telephone. And this provides a path for a large amount of the energy from the lightning strike to go back down towards the exchange.
In this display, the simulation of lightning damage has been exaggerated, but there are no constants in measuring lightning. It just depends on what nature wants to serve up. The High Voltage Lab also looks at simulated lightning surges to equipment, and that's where most of the damage occurs. The High Voltage Lab also tests the effectiveness of equipment used by telecom employees. It's a long way from testing the effects of direct lightning strikes, but the results obtained from putting 150,000 volts through equipment like gloves and boots can save the lives of telecom employees in the field. Customer and equipment protection are high priorities within telecom, but the unpredictable nature of lightning makes that task difficult. Researchers provided new ways of tackling the problem, but educating the customer is the main solution. Lightning strikes can't be eliminated, and the protection system isn't infallible. The best way of avoiding any injury from a lightning strike through the telephone network is to sit back during a thunderstorm and watch the power of nature at work. Leave the telephone calls until the storm has passed.
Solar radiation can be and is harnessed with benefit by Telecom to power telecommunications equipment in outback Australia. Telecom Australia is one of the largest users of solar power in Australia. Its laboratories are investigating ways of improving the reliability and reducing the costs of solar power systems in these applications, as I found when I inspected some solar panels undergoing field exposure trials. Take, for instance, these solar panels. They're being tested here and at 4 other locations which experience extremely harsh environmental conditions, typical of remote outback Australia. The test site at Cloncurry, Queensland experiences hot, dry desert conditions. The site at Innisfail, Queensland is in a humid tropical rainforest, while in Sydney the panels are exposed to a corrosive marine environment. And at Mount Buller in the Victorian Alps, conditions are cold and wet with snow in the winter. Even under these harsh conditions, the lifespan of the solar modules is expected to be at least 15 years. A range of tests inside the laboratories here complement the outdoor testing and includes accelerated life testing in environmental chambers, simulation of wind loading and hailstone impact, and measurement of electrical output and efficiency. Solar energy is just one of the resources used in the Australian telecommunications network, a network that ranks as one of the best in the world. All this wizardry, which is transforming the way we communicate, is made possible by this, the integrated circuit. The rapid increase in their complexity has reached the stage where it's possible to fabricate 1 million transistors on a single piece of silicon just 12 millimeters small. Sometimes, though, things go wrong. Yes, even a high-tech IC can have a flaw, and that's where this machine comes in. It's called, appropriately enough, a microprobe, which uses an electron beam to let scientists observe the inner workings of an integrated circuit after it's been magnified several hundred times. On the monitor here, we can see an integrated circuit operating in real time. The changes in brightness occurring reveal transistors on the circuit which are switching on and off. It's possible to detect whole sections of the circuit which are operating abnormally, or even a single faulty transistor, by observing where incorrect changes are occurring. In fact, this particular integrated circuit has a fault. Both the upper and the lower halves should be functioning the same way. But as the microprobe image reveals, they're not. No story of telecommunications research and development would be complete without mention of optical fibres and the lasers and other new optoelectronic devices which are revolutionising the transmission of signals by using light rather than electricity. Telecom is already introducing optical fibre systems into its long-distance networks. Eventually, as costs come down, fibres will dominate all of Telecom's transmission networks. Someday, in the not-too-distant future, the switches in exchanges will also be optical. The laboratories are investigating a number of glass, fibre and optoelectronic device technologies which will take telecommunications well into the next century and open up possibilities such as video phones in every home. Let's have a look at some of these studies. The big buzzword in telecommunications at the moment is optical fibre. Australia is well advanced in fibre optic technology. All the fibre optics currently in use for telecommunication purposes are made of ordinary glass, of silica. Well, not quite ordinary. It's been purified to an incredibly high degree. It can carry messages for up to about 200 kilometres without a booster. Although the silica-based fibre has succeeded far beyond even the most optimistic expectations of a few years ago, the material limit of these fibres has now been reached. In other words, we've gone as far as we can with silica materials. But experiments being conducted here at Telecom Research suggest that this glass rod might carry signals of up to 2,000 kilometres without a booster. The difference between these two optical fibres is that the latest one, still in the experimental stage, is made of a new type of glass known as zirconium tetrafluoride. It was made in this drawing tower at the Telecom Research Labs. The new glass promises to usher in yet another era in the continuing advancement of telecommunications technology. Optical fibres are useless unless we have matching devices, such as lasers, to transmit and receive signals through them. If fibres are to connect every home to provide virtually unlimited communication services in the future, device costs must be reduced by research breakthroughs. Telecom's laboratories are contributing to developments in this field by investigating new devices made by molecular beam epitaxy. Let's see how they're doing. Known as MBE for short, it's been responsible for the revolution in semiconductor device engineering during the 1980s. The effects will reach all telecommunications technology in the 90s. Inside this machine, semiconductors can be grown with a precision of 1 atomic layer, the most fundamental limit, and a factor of 100 better than previous technology. This control has spawned a vast number of new materials and devices. Telecom is exploiting this new technology to create novel and cheap optoelectronics, such as lasers, optical switches and detectors, for broadband services in the 90s. The semiconductors are grown in a vacuum of 10 to the minus 13 of an atmosphere. That's almost the equivalent of outer space. The growth is slow, 1 atomic layer a second, but this gives the precision needed when making very fast devices. Since its foundation 64 years ago, Telecom Research Labs have consistently produced results which have heralded the introduction of virtually every technological advance in telecommunications in this country. They include such things as digital transmission, digital microwave, common channel signalling, the integration of transistors and integrated circuits, packet switching, and so on. The Telecom Research Laboratories are pursuing many other high-tech projects which will influence the future directions of Australia's communications. In the time available, we've seen only a few of the projects which are underway. However, this visit to the Telecom Research Laboratories has shown clearly that Telecom is abreast of world developments. Its laboratories are helping to maintain Telecom's technical competence to provide up-to-date, world-class telecommunication services to meet the diverse needs of the people and the businesses of Australia as we head into the information age of the next century.